Hello, everyone. Tonight we are not scrolling, not rushing, not pretending everything is fine. Tonight we are standing in a still, silent room, lit only by the blue glow of my phone screen. And the question that just shattered my peace. It's 12:08 a.m. The world is quiet, but my heart? Racing. I wasn't expecting anything. Just one last check before bed, one last look at my bank app. Then it hit. Suspicious login attempt. Are you trying to access your account from New Jersey? I live in Oregon. My finger hovered over the screen. Another ping. Password reset requested. And then, your email has been changed. Everything around me slowed down. The fridge hummed in the background. The wind tapped at the window. And suddenly, nothing felt safe anymore. The air felt heavier, colder. I sat up straight, locked out of my own account, staring at a name on the screen I hadn't seen in months. Avenue, it had to be Ava, but I wasn't ready to say it out loud just yet. So, before we dive in, if this kind of story resonates with you, if you've ever trusted the wrong person, or wondered what you'd do if everything slipped through your fingers, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. This isn't about shock, it's about the quiet kind of betrayal, the kind that walks in wearing your favorite sweater and leaves with your name. And if you're still here, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I like knowing who else is awake with me when the rest of the world is asleep. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan, let some soft white noise float in the background, and let's start our journey tonight. Her name was Ava. And for the longest time, she was mine. Not in any possessive way, but in that forever friend kind of way. The person who knew my coffee order by heart, who showed up with tissues when my first boyfriend ghosted me, who sat in my childhood bedroom and planned out our grown-up life together, right down to the matching garden apartments we'd live in. The ones with white curtains and string lights. We met in 10th grade. She transferred in halfway through the semester, all black eyeliner and dry sarcasm. The kind of girl who said things like, "People exhaust me," but then offered me her fries at lunch like it was nothing. We clicked, fast, hard. I was quieter, the observer, the writer, the one who made playlists instead of conversation. Ava? She was sunlight and gasoline. Everyone noticed her, but she chose me. And I was grateful for it, maybe too grateful. We became one of those pairs people talk about like we're a single entity. If Ava and Lila aren't here yet, it's not a real party. If you invite one, you get the other. And we liked it that way. Matching Halloween costumes, road trips with burned CDs, plans scribbled in journals about who we'd marry, where we'd live, and how we'd never, ever let life turn us into our mothers. When we moved out at 24, we rented a 2-bedroom downtown. Nothing fancy. Peeling cabinets, a stubborn heater. But it was ours. We called it the castle. Spray-painted the mailbox. Wrote rules on the fridge. Thou shalt not eat my leftovers without permission. Thou shalt never ignore a 3 a.m. cry session. Thou shalt always tell the truth. And we did. Or I thought we did. She had access to everything. My Spotify, my streaming logins, my shared calendar, and yes, eventually, my passwords. Not because I was careless, because I trusted her. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was Ava, my best friend, my family, the person I would have taken a bullet for. I just didn't realize she'd be the one pulling the trigger. But back then, back in our castle, I didn't see it coming. The betrayal didn't show up all at once. It came in fragments. A weird glance here, a strange hesitation there. But I ignored it. Because when someone feels like home, you don't question the creaking floorboards. Not until the ceiling caves in. The apartment felt like freedom at first. We had late-night pasta in mismatched bowls. We danced barefoot in the kitchen to 2000s throwbacks. We painted one wall teal, Ava's idea, and hated it immediately. But we left it anyway, because we were too busy being young and alive and invincible. We shared everything: rent, groceries, Wi-Fi, A joint Netflix account with our own little profile icons, hers with a crown, mine with a flower. And I shared more than I meant to. Little things at first. One day, I was rushing out the door, job interview, running late. I yelled, "Can you log into my email and resend my resume to me?" She didn't even blink, typed it out like it was her own. And I thanked her. With coffee and gratitude. She laughed and said, "You're lucky I'm not secretly you." We both laughed. Because who jokes about that? Turns out, people do. But I wasn't thinking like that. Not then. We even started dreaming bigger. Saving up for a vacation to Portugal, pinning photos of Lisbon balconies. She was into the azulejo tiles. I wanted the bookstores. And on the surface, everything looked fine. But there were these small shifts. She started getting calls she wouldn't take in front of me, laughing at text messages, then locking her phone, saying things like, "Don't you ever feel like being someone else for a day?" I'd joke back, "Isn't that what Instagram is for?" But she wasn't joking. She was laying the groundwork, quietly, smoothly, patiently. One night, she asked me for a copy of our lease, said she needed it to prove residency for something. A phone upgrade, maybe. I didn't think twice. Emailed it to her from my personal inbox. Another night, she said her laptop was dead. Needed to finish a last-minute job application. "Can I just log into yours real quick?" Of course. Of course you can. Here's my login. The password's still your birthday, right? She smiled. And I felt good. Helpful, trusted. It's strange how betrayal feels like love when it's happening. The cracks weren't visible yet, but the foundation was already crumbling. Because when you give someone all the keys, you never expect them to lock you out. It started with a rejection email. Just a short line. "We've reviewed your application, and unfortunately, due to discrepancies in your background check, blah, blah, blah." I stared at it for a while. Background check? For a content editor job at a wedding magazine? I shrugged it off. Maybe they mixed me up with someone else. Maybe the system glitched. A week later, a new credit card showed up in the mail. Addressed to me. But I hadn't applied for one. Not even close. I called the bank. They said the application came through their online portal, using my name, my social security number, my email, but not my phone number. "It looks like you confirmed it," the rep said. "I didn't," I told her, pulse tightening in my ears. "Well, someone did." I checked my inbox. Nothing. No email from the bank. No confirmation alert. Just silence. I hung up, walked into the living room, and saw Ava on the couch, scrolling. She looked up, smiled, said, "You okay?" "You look pale." I almost asked her then. Almost. But the part of me that loved her, the part that shared that teal wall and those midnight noodles, said, "Don't ruin things." So I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into a credit monitoring site, free trial. Why not? And then I saw it. Not one, not two, 4 new accounts in my name. All opened in the last 3 months. A personal loan, a department store credit card, a gym membership I never used, a car rental in a city I hadn't been to in years. The dates lined up. I was at work. I was on a trip. I was with Ava. I scrolled, hands shaking. Every click made it worse. A change of address, an alternate email, a second phone number, everything legal, everything verified. None of it me. I remember standing in the hallway, barefoot, suddenly cold. The ceiling fan spinning lazily overhead. Like it was mocking me. I heard Ava laugh in the next room. She was watching a stand-up special, sipping from a mug I bought her last Christmas. My chest felt tight, my breath short, my heart trying to punch through my ribs. It was real. This was happening, and the person doing it was 10 feet away. I stared down the hallway, at the closed door, at the flicker of TV light under it. And for the first time, I was afraid of my best friend. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw numbers, dates, passwords, pieces of myself I no longer controlled. I stayed on the floor of my bedroom with my laptop glowing beside me. Refreshing, digging, cross-referencing anything I could find. By sunrise, I had a list, 7 accounts, all in my name, all connected to addresses I never lived at, phones I never used. But the strangest part? Most of them were linked to my email, my actual email, but set to forward to another one I didn't recognize. It was subtle, smart. I created a new email, changed my passwords, locked every account I could think of. But it felt like patching a sinking boat with tissue paper. The next day, I took the afternoon off work, told Ava I had a doctor's appointment. She barely looked up from her phone. I walked to the library. Old school, felt safer than my Wi-Fi. I printed out everything, account numbers, screenshots, IP logs, forwarding settings, a spreadsheet of every piece of evidence I had. And at the bottom of the list, one entry stood out. An Amazon wish list, public, titled, Ava's Fresh Start. I clicked on it, just out of curiosity. It had travel backpacks, new bedsheets, luggage tags with a new name engraved on them, Elena Morgan. I stared at the name. My name, mixed with hers. It was like watching someone steal your face and dress it in something foreign. I printed that too. When I got home, she was cooking. "Hey," she said, waving a spoon. "You want pasta?" Her voice was casual, warm, but it didn't reach her eyes. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I didn't know anymore. The way she moved, the way her laptop was always angled away from me, the way she never left it unlocked anymore. Everything screamed secrets. I said no to dinner, shut myself in my room, and cried. Quietly, because the grief of losing someone who's still in the next room is a kind of silent devastation. That night, I made a decision. No more waiting, no more assuming, no more hope. I was going to the bank, and I was going to say her name out loud. I didn't sleep again, not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Ava's footsteps on the other side of the wall. Every creak in the floorboard felt loaded now. Every laugh track from her TV felt fake. And I wondered, had it always sounded like that? By morning, I was ready. Not calm, not brave, but ready. I put on a hoodie, stuffed the printed papers into a manila envelope, grabbed my keys, and stopped in the hallway. Ava was at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, reading something on her phone. She looked up, smiled like nothing was wrong. "Morning," she said. Her voice was bright, too bright. "Morning," I mumbled back. She didn't ask where I was going. I didn't offer. I stepped out the door, and only when the wind hit my face did I realize I'd been holding my breath. The bank was 6 blocks away, close enough to walk, far enough to feel like a pilgrimage. At the counter, I asked to speak to someone in fraud. The clerk looked at me, then at the envelope in my hand, and simply nodded. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a glass room with a woman named Carla. She wore a soft gray blazer and didn't smile much, but she listened. I told her everything, slowly, carefully, like building a house out of broken glass. When I said Ava's name, my throat tightened. I hadn't said it out loud like that, not with this weight. Carla took notes, asked questions, took the documents, and flipped through them with practiced hands. When she got to the Amazon wish list, she paused. "This is very specific," she said softly. Then she pulled up a screen, typed something, scanned, and then her eyebrows lifted. "We've had a few other reports connected to this alias," she said. Alias. That word landed heavy. "She's not just impersonating you," Carla continued. "She's been doing this with others. You're not the first." My hands went cold. Not the first? Something inside me cracked open. I wasn't just betrayed. I was part of something bigger, something darker. Carla leaned forward. "We can escalate this," she said, "but you'll need to file a police report, and you'll need to be careful." I nodded. I didn't feel brave, but I felt angry. And sometimes that's enough. As I walked home, every step felt different, like I was walking through a dream that had turned into a nightmare while I wasn't looking. And at the end of the street was the person who made it happen. Avenue waiting in the doorway, still sipping coffee, still smiling. But this time, I didn't smile back. I didn't go inside right away. I stood across the street, pretending to check my phone, watching Ava through the glass. She was still at the table, still scrolling, still sipping. The same mug I bought her. The same hoodie she once borrowed from me and never gave back. And I stood there, realizing that everything she touched in our apartment, our home, was now tainted. I crossed the street slowly, each step heavier than the last. When I opened the door, she didn't even turn. "Hey," she said, casual as ever. "Do you want Thai tonight?" I closed the door behind me, set the envelope down on the hallway table, and said nothing. She looked up. Her eyes searched my face. "You okay?" I nodded, then shook my head, then laughed. A strange sound, brittle, crooked. "You ever lie to someone for so long, you forget which parts were real?" She blinked, tilted her head. "What?" I walked past her, straight to my room, closed the door, locked it, and started making copies. Of everything. Emails, call logs, receipts, screenshots. I saved backups to 2 USB drives and a cloud account she didn't know about. I called my parents, told them a short version of the truth. Enough to warn them in case she tried using my name again. Told them not to worry, that I was safe. I wasn't, but I wanted it to sound like I was. That night, I didn't sleep in my bed. I didn't trust it anymore. I curled up on the floor, laptop beside me, earbuds in, listening to white noise, trying to drown out the sound of Ava brushing her teeth in the bathroom next door. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was spatial. It filled the air, the walls, the silence between us. The next morning, she knocked on my door. Softly. "You mad at me?" she asked through the wood. Her voice was syrupy, too sweet. I didn't answer. "You've been weird lately," she added. "Did I do something?" I opened the door slowly, just a crack. "Yes," I said. "You did." She looked confused, or pretended to. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about my identity," I said. "My name, my credit, my email, my life." Her face fell, a flicker of panic. So fast I almost missed it. Then came the mask, the denial. "Wait, what? Are you serious right now? You think I didn't answer. I just handed her one of the USB drives. "You might want to look through that," I said, "before the police do." Then I walked past her, out the door, to the police station, because it was time to let someone else say her name. And this time, it would be official. The police station smelled like old paper and cold coffee. I sat in a chair that wobbled, the kind that reminds you this place isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to make you wait, to think. A woman in uniform led me into a small room. No mirrors, no drama, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a notepad. Her name was Officer Rivera. She had short hair, tired eyes, and the kind of voice that made you feel like she'd heard it all. "Start from the beginning," she said. So I did. Everything. From the email that didn't feel right, to the credit cards, to the wish list with my name rewritten like a character in a bad novel. She asked questions, clarified, nodded, typed. When I handed her the USB, she plugged it into her computer. Her eyes scanned faster than I expected. She didn't flinch at the screenshots, the bank activity, the photos of Ava's forged signature on my lease copy. She just said, "You were thorough." I wanted to say, no. I was scared. But I just nodded. When I mentioned the wish list titled Ava's Fresh Start, she actually raised an eyebrow. "Not the smartest move, leaving a trail that long," I swallowed. "Is it enough?" "Enough to open a case," she said. "But identity theft's complicated, especially when you live together. Shared accounts, devices. It gets messy fast." "But she used my social," I said. "She applied for loans. She lied." "I know," Rivera said gently. "And that's exactly why we take it seriously. But the process isn't always quick." "How long?" she sighed. Could be weeks, could be months. Depends on what we find and how cooperative she is. I sat back, my shoulders heavy. I'd expected… what? Instant justice? No such thing. But at least now someone else knew. As I was about to leave, Rivera paused. You said you two were best friends. Yeah, I whispered. She ever talk about needing money? Wanting to leave town? I hesitated. She talked about Portugal, I said. About starting fresh. About getting out before life got boring. Rivera nodded slowly. Sometimes, people who feel trapped convince themselves they deserve what isn't theirs. I nodded, but inside, I was screaming. Because I had felt trapped too. Stuck in the same apartment, the same job, the same cycle of someday. And I never once thought about stealing someone else's name to escape. That night, I went home. Ava wasn't there. Her room was dark, her laptop gone, her closet half empty. No note, no text, just a half-drunk cup of tea on the counter, still warm. She was running. I didn't chase her. I just locked my door, sat in my room, and cried like I had the night someone I loved died. Because in a way, she had. Days passed. Then a week. The apartment felt empty, but not peaceful. Like the ghost of our friendship was still pacing the hallway, opening drawers, breathing down my neck. I kept checking my phone, half dreading, half hoping I'd see her name. But it was quiet, until it wasn't. One night, 10 days after the police visit, I got a voicemail, blocked number, no warning, just her voice. I didn't even recognize it at first. It was tired, low, like she hadn't spoken in days. Hey, it's me, Ava. I guess you already know what I did. She paused. The silence stretched, long enough for me to hear her breathing. I want to say I'm sorry, but I know that's not enough. I know sorry won't clean up the mess I made. My fingers tightened around the phone. I didn't plan to hurt you, not at first. But somewhere along the way, it got easier. Pretending. Using what was already there. Your accounts. Your trust. I felt my chest ache. Hearing it. In her voice. No denial. No excuses. I was drowning, Lila. I thought you had everything figured out. The job. The discipline. The kindness. I always felt like the mess. Like your shadow. So I started borrowing pieces of your life. Just to see what it felt like to be someone who didn't screw everything up. There was another pause. And the thing is, for a little while, I really thought I could get away with it. That maybe, if I built a new life out of your parts, it would become real. But it didn't. Her voice cracked then. Because no matter how much I took from you, it never made me you. And that hurt the most. I sat frozen. The phone pressed to my ear, listening to the pieces of my best friend fall apart in real time. I'm not coming back. I know the police are probably watching. I know you probably hate me. I deserve that. But before I disappear for good, I just wanted to say… She stopped, long pause. Thank you. For letting me be someone better, even if it was a lie. Click. The line went dead. And I just sat there, staring at nothing, holding my breath like it might bring her back. But she was gone. Really gone. No more laughter from the kitchen. No more shared playlists. No more Ava. Just an empty room down the hall. And a voice I could never unhear. After the voicemail, I didn't move for a long time. The apartment was quiet. Not just empty, quiet. As if the walls were finally resting, no longer holding secrets between the cracks in the paint. I walked down the hall and stood in front of her door. It was slightly ajar, as if she'd wanted to leave it open, or maybe couldn't be bothered to close it. I stepped inside. The room was half full, half vanished, drawers left open. One sneaker under the bed, the other gone. The teal sweater she used to wear on rainy days draped over the chair. Her scent still hung in the air, vanilla and citrus, but lighter now. Fading. I looked around, and that's when I started to see it. the small lies, the little details that never meant much, until now. The unopened mail in her drawer, with my name, a copy of my driver's license, photocopied, crumpled notes in the trash, phone numbers, addresses, phrases like act confident, smile with teeth, birthday, reset answer. I stared at the notes. My handwriting, copied, mimicked, practiced, like I was a role she'd been rehearsing. I sat on the edge of her bed, one hand on the wrinkled sheets, and I remembered the first time I let her borrow my ID. College party. She forgot hers. She smiled that same mischievous smile and said, "You and I are practically the same person." I laughed, told her to be careful, and now here I was, picking up the pieces of that moment, wishing I could go back and say, "No, we're not. We were never the same. I just wanted us to be." I opened her closet. Inside was a single duffel bag, empty hangers, and tucked in the corner, a box. It held all the things she couldn't take, or didn't care to. A photo of us at the beach, matching sunglasses, fake mustaches, a dried rose from the night we both got dumped and vowed to stay single together forever. A birthday card I wrote her 2 years ago, signed, "To my chosen sister. Always." I sat there for a long time, holding that card, trying to figure out when she stopped meaning it, or if she ever did. And I realized, maybe Ava didn't start out planning to become me. Maybe it was a slow slide, a cracked boundary here, a stolen moment there, until she was wearing my skin like it was easier than wearing her own. And in a twisted way, I think she really believed she'd take better care of my life than I had. But she didn't. She broke it. And now, I was the one who had to clean it up. It was 2:37 a.m. when my phone lit up again. Not a call this time, a text, just one. No name, no number, just gray bubbles on a black screen. And when I opened it, I froze. It read, "I still dream in your name." That was it. 7 words, no punctuation, no context. But they knocked the wind out of me. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, not because I was scared, but because I didn't know what to feel anymore. Anger, sadness, pity. I stared at the words, read them again, and again. It was Ava. Of course it was. No one else would say something like that. No one else could. And yet, she didn't say sorry, didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't even explain. She just left a sentence behind. Like a breadcrumb, like an echo. I wondered where she was. A motel? A borrowed couch? A different country? Had she changed her name again? Dyed her hair? Was she sitting somewhere right now, staring at her own phone, waiting for me to reply? I didn't. Not that night. Not the next morning. I kept the message. Didn't delete it. Didn't block her. But I didn't answer either. What do you say to someone who made a costume out of your life, who borrowed your dreams, your future, your safety, and then sent a single line like it was poetry? I walked into the living room, made tea, stared out the window as the city slowly woke up, and I thought about that text. I still dream in your name. Maybe she did. Maybe some part of her was still trying to live the life she stole. But dreaming isn't the same as being. And no matter how close she got, she never really became me. She didn't know how I carried my silence, how I handled rejection, how I sat with grief without letting it rot me. She only saw the shine, not the shadow. And that's why she failed. She thought stealing my name meant stealing my strength. But it doesn't work like that. Strength doesn't come from the things people see. It comes from what you survive when no one is looking. I put my phone down, and for the first time since everything happened, I smiled. Not because I forgave her, not yet, but because I was still here, still standing, still mine. And Ava? She could dream in my name all she wanted. I was done losing sleep over hers. Rebuilding wasn't cinematic. It didn't come with triumphant music or a sudden sunrise. It came with paperwork, phone calls, long holds with banks and credit agencies. A therapist who kept asking, "How long did you ignore the red flags?" Too long. It came with nights spent staring at a blinking cursor, trying to rewrite a resume that no longer matched the name floating around in someone else's file. Because that's the part no one tells you. Identity theft doesn't just mess with your credit. It warps your sense of self. You start asking questions like, if someone else can become me so easily, what was I holding together to begin with? It took months, sorting through every detail, reclaiming my name, my accounts, my history. Some pieces I got back, some I didn't. There are still companies that send offers to addresses that aren't mine. Still moments I type in my own email and get flagged for suspicious activity. But the hardest thing to reclaim? Trust. I'd stand in line at the coffee shop and catch myself flinching when someone glanced at my phone. I'd double-check every email, every link, every name, even my own. There were days I hated her, deeply, rawly. There were days I missed her, the way she used to make me laugh at the worst possible moments, the way she knew how to comfort me without asking what was wrong. I wondered if that Ava ever existed, or if she was just part of the act. And then came the legal side. My case moved forward. Slowly. The police contacted me when they finally tracked down one of her burner accounts. They had enough evidence to issue a warrant, but no one knew where she was. It turns out, when someone's good at becoming other people, they get very good at disappearing too. The DA called it a low-priority fugitive. To me, she was anything but. But still, I pressed forward, got the court documentation, filed the affidavits, wrote the letters. Bit by bit, I became myself again. Only, not the same self. There's something that shifts when someone you love teaches you how easily love can be weaponized. You get sharper, quieter, more careful, but you also learn. You learn that forgiveness isn't a gift for them, it's a key for you, not to forget, but to move. One step at a time, in your own name. And I was learning how to walk again. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It wasn't the lost money, or the frozen accounts, or even the shame of explaining it all to my employer, my landlord, my parents. The hardest part was looking in the mirror and realizing I didn't recognize myself anymore. Not because she stole my identity, but because I let it happen. That part haunted me. I replayed every moment, every time she asked for a password, every, "Can I borrow your laptop?" Every, "You're so organized, I wish I were more like you." They felt different now. Not compliments, not requests, blueprints. It's easy to say now, with distance, that I should have known. But love, even the friendship kind, makes you blind in places you don't realize you're bleeding from. I started calling it the mirror test. Each morning, I'd wake up, stare at my own face, and ask, who am I now? Not the girl who shared a fridge with a liar. Not the victim. Not the cautionary tale. But something else. Someone else. Someone who knows what it means to have her name dragged through mud and still hold her head up high. Someone who learned that strength isn't about being untouched. It's about surviving the touch that broke you. I began making small changes. New glasses, a haircut that didn't hide my eyes. I repainted the apartment, got rid of the teal wall. It was just a color, but it held too many memories. I donated her leftover clothes, threw out the old mugs, switched the photos in the hallway, but I kept one. One picture from the beach. Us laughing, mid-splash, caught off guard by a wave. Because for a moment in time, that was real. Even if it ended in betrayal, even if she rewrote the story in her own handwriting. That moment, that version of her, that version of me, they existed, and I needed to remember that I was happy before it all broke. So I didn't become bitter, didn't let it rot me from the inside. That picture sits in my desk drawer now, not on display, not forgotten, just there, like a scar that healed, but still itches when the weather turns. That's the thing about trauma. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never fully leaves. And I've made peace with that. Some days I pass the mirror test, some days I don't. But every day I try. And that's more than I could say before. Ava, if you're listening, And some part of me thinks you are some shadowed version of you, sitting alone, scrolling in the dark. Then this is what I never got to say. You hurt me, deeply, not just by stealing my identity, not just by opening accounts in my name, but by making a home in my trust, and then burning it down. You knew things no one else did. My passwords. Sure, but also my fears, my history, my silence. And you used that. You wore it like armor, then turned it into a blade. But here's the thing you never understood. I wasn't strong because I looked like I had it all together. I was strong because I showed up anyway. Because I failed, fell apart, and kept going. You thought taking my name would give you that. But names don't carry strength. People do. And you never asked me for help. Not really. You asked for access. You asked for shortcuts. And when I gave them, not out of naivety, but love, you took everything, even the parts I didn't know could be stolen. I've spent a long time thinking about you, wondering what parts of our friendship were real, which laughs were honest, which tears were rehearsed. And the truth is, I'll never know. That uncertainty is yours now, to carry, to sleep with, to explain, if you ever try to be someone real again. I won't follow your trail. I won't press charges beyond what's already in motion, not because you deserve kindness, but because I do. I deserve to be done, to stop rereading your final text, to stop waiting for closure in the shape of your apology. This isn't about revenge, or justice, or reclaiming pride. It's about standing here, with my life in my own hands again, and saying, you don't get to define me. You don't get to be the last word in my story. So if you're listening, goodbye. You were the chapter I never saw coming, the twist I didn't want, the plotline that bent me backwards. But not the ending. You are not the ending. It's been 2 years now, since the text, since the voicemail, since I walked into a police station with shaking hands and said my best friend's name like it was an open wound. A lot has changed. My credit is clean again. The fraud alerts are gone. The emails are mine. The passwords are new. But the scars? They stay. They live in the way I double-check locks at night, in how I watch for patterns, for behaviors, for smiles that feel too easy. But something else stays too. Me. The version of me that rose from the wreckage. Not polished, not perfect, but whole. I learned a lot about identity. Not the digital kind, the real kind. Identity isn't just what's printed on a license. It's who you are when no one's watching. It's the shape your heart takes after betrayal. It's the quiet strength of saying, I still choose to trust. Carefully, but fully. I still have friends, not many, but the kind that knock before entering, that ask instead of assume, that see me not as an opportunity, but as a person. I still live in that apartment, same street, different paint, different light, and sometimes, when I pass her old room, I stop for a second, just long enough to remember that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering, and continuing anyway. I kept her last text. Did I ever tell you that? I never replied, never deleted it either. It sits there, buried under hundreds of others. A digital fossil. A line drawn between who I was and who I became. I still dream in your name. Maybe she does, but I don't. I dream in mine now. Louder, clearer, truer. And if this story reached you, if it made you think about who you trust, who you let in, or even who you used to be, then thank you. Thank you for listening, for walking with me through the silence, for holding space for a story that didn't end in fireworks, but in slow, steady survival. If you want more stories like this, real ones, human ones, told quietly, honestly, with all the shadows and light they deserve, then I hope you'll subscribe. Only if you want to. Only if you feel something here. And if you do, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what part of this story stayed with you. And above all, take care of your name, take care of your story, because even when someone else tries to write it, you're still the author. End of script. Good night.